Okay, so this is going to finish up the rest of your notes for this unit. So what we're going to talk about is the factors that impact photosynthesis. So these are the things that can determine how fast or how slow photosynthesis works, and then also how fast or slow plants are getting food or getting that sugar, glucose. One of them that's probably the most obvious is light. Because photosynthesis requires light to start the process of the electron transport chain, the amount or the saturation or the intensity of light is going to impact that. So if it's a really sunny day, photosynthesis is going to happen faster because there's more light hitting those pigments that then turns into ATP. In reverse, if it's a cloudy day, there's going to be less photosynthesis or less glucose being overall produced. You can also look at different locations. There's obviously going to be more sun in Florida than there is around here because they're closer to the equator. There is something that does end up getting to a saturation point, meaning that no matter what, there's a certain amount of light that plants just can't absorb more because they just can't go any faster. So think about it as like a factory. The machines can only work so fast, and no matter what you do, you can't get them to work any faster. It's the same thing with this. There's some level of light that a plant can take where it just can't work faster. The second one is carbon dioxide concentration. When you go through and look at that, remember you're going through and looking at the Calvin cycle. We need 6 carbon dioxides to come into the plant to allow for 1 glucose to be created. So if there's more carbon dioxide in the environment or coming into the plant, then this process can happen faster than if there's not. Again, same thing, there is a saturation point of this process, meaning these enzymes can only work so fast before it can't go any faster. Same thing as the factory idea. The last one you may not think of as much, but that's temperature. So back in Bio A, we talked about temperature with enzymes. We said that an enzyme has an optimal temperature that will denature or stop working as well if it goes out of that optimal temperature. So if you look at that graph on the bottom right, you can see the optimal temperature is 40. So that enzyme is going to be able to take things apart, put things together the best it possibly can at 40 degrees Celsius. If you start to go outside of that, you see the line start to drop, meaning that it's not working very well and it's not able to do its job and it's starting to denature, which basically just means it can't work as well. The big important part of that is, remember, the Calvin cycle and the electron transport chain both use enzymes to make this process happen. So if the temperature goes out of whatever that enzyme's limit is, the enzyme can't do its job and photosynthesis can't happen or can't happen as fast or as well. One time you see that happen is when you look at fall time. During the fall, you're going to see a whole bunch of different leaf colors. Those leaf colors are coming because the temperature's changing, and because the temperature's changing, the main pigment that plants have, which is chlorophyll, which makes them green, you're not able, or that pigment doesn't work well in that temperature anymore. So it becomes less effective, and the plant's going to stop making it and producing it and using it because it's not getting them the amount of light capturing ability is what it wants, just because it's colder and it's not working well. So the plant will start to make different pigments that work at different temperature conditions that allow this process to keep coming. So they'll make carotenoids, anthocyanins to see the different yellow, orange, and red colors. Because we're talking about photosynthesis, the reason we see the different colors of leaves is because what part of the light is it absorbing and what part of the light is it reflecting. So hopefully you remember that or know that light is made up of a spectrum of wavelengths. You may have seen like a little prism where you put it in the sun and it shows like a little rainbow on the side. Those are your different wavelengths of light. So you got like purples and blues and greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. So if I see a green leaf, that means the leaf or the pigments are absorbing every color in that rainbow except for green. So green leaf is absorbing reds, blues, purples. because again, it absorbs the things you can't see. So I see green, it absorbs everything else. Okay, and that works for all of these other ones too. There's a bunch of different pigments that absorb different colors because you're seeing different things. When you go through and look at what we're going to do today, you're going to do the wavelength lab, which is basically kind of looking at which wavelengths, so which specific colors of the rainbow are going to absorb the most sunlight to help the plant grow the most. So this is your worksheet you're going to go through and do. Before you do anything, I want you to go through and make a hypothesis. It's a complete guess. It's just take a guess. But once you're done doing that hypothesis, click on this link that is in Schoology. When you click on this link that's in Schoology, it's going to take you to something to look like this. When you go through and look at this, you're going to see it in the middle. It says spinach, radish, lettuce. When you're going through and looking at that, that corresponds to this chart here. So you're going to need to do a spinach plant that's red, a spinach plant that's orange, a spinach plant that's green, also the radishes, also the lettuces. And when you're doing this, you're taking an average. So you're adding them up and dividing by 3. But the way you're going to do it is click. Let's just do all the spinach ones first. So also notice it makes sound, so turn your sound off because it's just annoying. I'm going to plant a bunch of spinach, and I can change the color. So I'm going to make this one red, this one blue, and I'm going to turn the timer on. That's going to allow the spinach to grow for 30 days, and then I need to measure how tall they are. I'm going to grab this little ruler, drag it over, and I can literally say, okay, this is one's at 16, this one's at 21, oops, this one's at 16, 17. Take those values, add them up, hit enter, divide by 3 because there's 3 plants. That number for spinach in red, you're going to put in this box that's right here. Same thing, go back, do the same thing with blue, just drag it over, measure them, add them up, and that's going to go in spinach blue box. And then in order to reset it, you just hit this reset button. It'll send it back, and then you can keep changing it to whatever it needs. All of the colors are in here, so you'll be able to flip through that. Then you're going to go through and graph that data, just the average data. So you should have, there's going to be a bunch of bars, so you're going to need some type of key, and then answer the questions that follow. If we don't have enough time to finish the questions, you can take it home. I'm not sure if we'll have time tomorrow to work on them.